All right, guys, we are back for the last stop in Yuma County. Spoilers. Bruce Purkey, you are excited to talk about spoilers. What did you want to talk about? Let's start with the Civil War connection or deconnection or
Oh,
why it's stronger than Civil War in many ways.
well, I guess we have to set up the okay. So basically, probably what with maybe 20 minutes left of the film. At this point, we've collected a whole array of characters in this diner, and basically, some people know at this point that they've got the two bank robbers there, and some people don't. But it basically comes to a head, and then everyone essentially has a giant standoff. And I guess my connection is, and this is once again, this is not necessary to enjoy this film. I don't even think it's necessarily intended by the film, but the fact that this isn't such an American film to me because it's like everybody has a gun, like, and it's to a comic effect, but also to a tension effect. The fact that you have this fantastic montage over crying, where you see every single character securing their weapons. Even to the point of the waitress that's been doing, kind of trying to keep everything under control. She's finding a knife, and even the old couple has a gun. All this stuff. And the other aspect I think that to me is very American with a capital A or with a capital apostrophe M, American. Um, this movie is also to me, and this is not anything new to movies, but it's all about how corrupted people are by just the concept of greed. And that's kind of the final act of this movie. It's just the path that the knife salesman's character takes. Like how he goes from, because he's set up as right, mild mannered, I just want to have no trouble.
Innocuous.
Yeah.
He wants to fade into the woodwork. He doesn't want to bother anybody.
And the post massacre scene, first of all, the massacre, I'm going to hear how surprised you guys were, especially the deaths of some of the great loved characters at that point. And then the turn, to me, the key turn is the young couple pulling up after that big massacre. And he's there and they're there. And what's going to happen? That scene almost was more interesting almost than the whole scene before that. I loved that so much.
Well, the thing is, the knife salesman ends up the most harmless character in the entire story ends up, when you count it, with the biggest body count. He takes out accidentally the young woman played by what's her name? Played by, yeah, Sierra McCormick. He accidentally stabs her with one of his knives, right? He takes out that young couple with the baby outside, and then he kills the friggin' sheriff in town towards the end. Those are four people he killed. One of them was an accident, and two of them were accidents, and two of them were in cold blood. But can you build that was a big wow moment, and I think that's going to be copied a lot. Eric, what do you want to talk about as far as spoilers? I think you were mentioning
Well,
the lead actress,
yeah,
Jocelyn Donahue as
yeah,
Charlotte.
Jocelyn Donahue, like she was the character that you think makes it to the end.
You're
Yep.
And
assuming,
then so
yeah.
when she doesn't, that's the movie saying, look, anything can happen. I'm like, all right, well, no one's safe. Imagine watching Star Wars and Luke Skywalker dies, and it's like, well, then anything can happen. Who knows?
You're even expecting her. I'm sure probably, well, I was expecting her to actually get up, even though her face was down on the floor
Yeah,
in a pool of blood. We're conditioned to say that de facto person is the one, whether it's the final girl or the final person, is going to make it out alive. And when she dies, actually a little bit more than just maybe 60 minutes into the movie with maybe 30 minutes left to go, you're
yeah.
saying, oh, they're going to pull some kind of horrible trick and she's actually really
Right.
alive, and they don't do it.
And then you also have the character Travis, the Nicholas Logan,
Yeah, the bad guy.
Richard
Yeah,
Brake's buddy. Like
the
that's
bank
normally
robbers.
the character that goes a little too far. And then Richard Brake's the one that's got to like constantly keep them in line and then eventually kill them because they don't stay in line. But it's weird that Richard Brake was kind of the loose cannon of this.
Yeah,
Like
that's
like
true.
if Richard Brake was just as like just laid back and like who gives a shit? Let's just wait here for the thing and just relaxed. They probably could have got away with more than well, no, actually, because the that couple does find out it's them. But either way, I think Richard Brake ended up being more the loose cannon than how this would normally play out.
Okay, yeah.
And didn't you also think that this is a great testament to how if you have good writing, you can create characters that people care about very quickly. Like
Yes.
think about how many characters we have in this movie. But did you feel terrible when Faison Loves? Like when that Faison Loves character dies, I'm like, oh my God, no, why him?
Right.
And when the waitress woman dies, I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't think that hurts, you know? Like you cared about these characters. And when I mean I guess it doesn't really matter with Jim Cummings' character. He is a bigger character in this,
Oh,
but he has a lot more meat. But at the same time, you're unhappy that he makes the turn that he makes, you know? You're like,
Yeah.
come on, I thought you were a good guy, you know? Like
At the same time, I'm like, just let him go. Just let him go.
yeah.
You know,
Look, he's writing
yeah.
something. He's writing a note in the middle of the movie, and we never get to see what he's writing in that
Right.
note. And what is that? What did he call that? Is that a
See, I wondered about that too. Like, it's maybe he's because at that point when he wrote the note, it's almost like he was expecting to die. I think. So I
right?
almost felt like he was writing a note like, "Hey, if I die, that like kind of like a soldier would write, you know."
Yeah.
But then of course he does die, and he's drops out on the ground at the end. Oh, another thing I was going to bring up. Another thing this is doing is it's really showing you like people have this weird like tendency to think that they can be heroes and be effective at it. And that also fails in this movie several times and just makes things worse, you
Makes things a
know?
lot worse. Yeah.
I also like the bit where uh Charlotte's getting the coffee ready. Like that was like a really clever plan that she had. Like just help on the bottom, add a bunch of sugar because adding sugar to a coffee pretty innocuous unless you know that the person she's making the sugar for doesn't like sugar and would be like, what the like it was such a clever setup, but at the same time it was like, oh, this is gonna fail. This is way too early for him
Well,
to just like how is this gonna
yeah. Well, the thing this movie does is it has a clever setup, but it never comes. It never gets complimented, or it then never gets run over by stupid execution. Meaning, the
Yes.
writing, please
yeah.
help on the on that cover on the cover. She's writing something. You think that the bad guys would actually go like read the cup. You think that would
Yeah.
happen but it
Yeah,
doesn't. It never.
yeah, and any other movie, Richard Brake comes up, and goes, "Wait a minute, let
Wait
me
up.
check the inside of the cup." I'm like, "Why would you do that? That didn't make sense." But like the way it fails is just like bump into him, shit falls,
Yeah.
and they throw it in the trash, and you know,
And that's
that's
the combination of smart writing, but also letting your characters be smart, but don't make them too smart or too like artificially smart or artificially dumb. Like little things like the sheriff when he comes back, he's like, "Wait, there was another car here this morning. And
Right.
it's not here anymore." And then he's putting things together because he's a cop and he actually noticed that stuff. And if you go back and watch the beginning of the movie, yeah, I had forgotten that he pulled up there and dropped her off. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
that's
Same
right.
here.
He
Same here.
pulled up there and dropped her off. And just
oh
other little details like the bird. I mean,
Yeah.
so beautiful.
The bird at the end is a beautiful bird minding its own business, just
Well, it's the
enjoying.
bird at the beginning too.
so.
Oh,
Speaking of
right.
beginning,
And it
the
gets
the
just
the
swallowed up, right? At the end, just gets taken out. Yes,
so
there.
the this is my dumbass. Speaking of the beginning, the opening title sequence where they showed the overturned gas
Truck.
Which
truck.
Yeah.
is the fuel tank.
And
Yeah.
then they're like, "Oh, the gas truck should be here any minute." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And then it was
You know,
till the end where Jim Comey or the knife salesman finds the overturned gas truck. I'm like, "Oh yeah, they fucking of course it. That's why it's late. It
See,
crashed. They showed
that's
us at the beginning."
that's interesting because I did catch it when I watched it the first time. So the movie plays differently depending on if you notice that. Because if you didn't notice it, then you keep wondering like any minute now this truck's going to show up. What's going to happen? And I'm the
Yeah.
other way. I'm like that truck's never showing up. Well,
See,
this is gonna go badly. You know, it's like
I was just thinking because I didn't know what the story was yet, so I'm just like a bunch of cool shots for a title sequence, and maybe this will turn up later, and it did. But by the time the movie starts getting going, like I had already forgot about that. I just kind of dismissed it as title shot, cool, and who knows, maybe it's in the
which
future, or I don't know what it is. I just did not put that together at all. But
which is testament to the filmmaking and rewatchability that
yeah,
that the things that could be innocuous, just establishing shots, have a purpose. Like all of these things have a purpose, and you can watch it, and that just gives you that such satisfaction as a watcher of this kind of movie because you just it's just like, oh my god, it's so well done.
Yeah,
I
and the
for
fact, go ahead.
oh I forget what they were, but when I was talking to the director, I'll have to go back and watch the interview. But he gave a couple of Easter eggs that are in the movie,
Yep.
and there's probably like a ton more that are yet to be found. But
Yeah, that's featured. Yeah, and actually he does spoil it a little bit
yeah,
in the interview. But hey, if he says it, we'll just put it. It's already on our Cinematics YouTube channel. Look, the knife salesman, you're pulling for him all throughout until halfway until he makes that fateful decision, which really does him in Treasure of the Sierra Madre style. But
And
then yes, Bruce.
no, you go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
No, and then again, that was a thing. That was a big turn. And you're saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm pulling for this guy when he ends up being that person at the end. And especially when that couple with the baby, I mean, not only that, he kills the couple and there's a baby baking in the car and he just drives off. So you realize the knife salesman who pretends to be very meek is actually a pretty despicable, evil person. Wow. I mean, he killed a bunch of people. And also, it leads us to really follow the journey of that waitress, Charlotte. And when she has that knife, you think she might get injured, but she's gonna pull it off and everything's gonna be fine. So the sheriff is gonna come in, her husband's gonna come in, everything will be great. She dies, and the sheriff, who thinks he's getting some kind of retribution, revenge at the end, ends up dying. He ends up dying in that explosion. So very well done film. So yeah.
And if the filmmakers haven't done it yet, and maybe they haven't looked at it yet, but if they haven't put out merch like T-shirts or something that say, what is it, rhubarb pie you'll die for or whatever, like they need that made like
you'll
yesterday.
die
That
for
needs
this
to be out there
rhubarb
like
pie.
now.
Oh wow. Bruce gets a cut. Bruce gets a cut. Any final thoughts on our
A
spoilers?
slice. Give me a slice,
Slice.
please.
Give a slice. All right. Eric Holmes, Bruce
I
Purkey.
mean, I would buy a t-shirt of that rest stop because apparently the rest stop is based on a real place, but it's actually a set, which I
Yeah.
was kind of
The
surprised
Four
that,
Aces. I think this has its own website
yeah.
too. It's called the Four Aces. I think
But
it's called
yeah,
the Four Aces.
yeah, it feels like an actual rest stop. So I was kind of
Oh,
surprised to hear that it was a set. But yeah, good
okay.
stuff. Watch
Good.
it. And, hey, we're talking spoilers. Hopefully, you've already seen it at this point, so you know.
Yes, yes. Tell us what you think of this movie. Yes, Bruce, final thoughts.
I mean, it's just the more I talk about it, the more I just know this is going to be a favorite for life. Like you just know certain movies that you're just going to love it for the rest of your life. And like I think Eric was spot on. This is a movie you can watch over and over and over again. This is right in the camp of like what and I don't want to diminish it by saying Coen brothers, but the way that some of those Coen brothers are so rewatchable because you just love the story, the characters, everything about it. This movie has that kind of pedigree, I guess, is what I would say.
Speaking of pedigree, Gene Jones, who is the elderly man who gets killed in towards the end of this movie, Gene Jones was a lead in a really great indie film called The Sacrament. And you mentioned Coen Brothers, Bruce
Oh
Purkey.
yeah, he's in
He,
the choose it friendo, whatever, like
he's a choose
whatever
it
that.
gas station proprietor in No Country for Old Men. What a great character actor. Okay, that's it for our spoiler discussion of this really wonderful movie, Yuma County, 310 to Yuma. That was one of the actual
310 to you again.
that was one of the eggs, the Easter eggs that he was talking about. There's
Yeah, that's right.
310 clock, but you just listen to Eric's interview. Again, the last stop in Yuma County, our spoiler discussion. Most importantly, give us your spoilers. Tell us what you think of this movie. Thanks again for supporting us here on Cinematics.